What's up? We got Brittany Cartwright debuting her new man. Monica Garcia says that she may have a return to Salt Lake City soon. We have the Real Housewives of New Jersey finale, and Dorinda Medley got a spinoff. Say what? Let's get into all of it, okay? Happy Monday. You're listening to No Filter with Zach Peter, your go-to source for all the latest pop culture and reality TV tea, served fresh all week long. Now, let's dive in. Good morning, Good morning, San Francisco. Hi, guys. How's everybody doing today? What's going on? Happy Monday. I hope you guys had a great weekend. Maybe you got lit. Maybe you got laid. Maybe you're living your best life. I don't know what you were doing this weekend, but I hope it was good. Oh, hold on. I need my booster seat. Okay. There we go. That's a little bit better. Do your chain hang low? Does it wobble to the flow? Does it shine in the light? Is it platinum? Is it gold? What's going on, everybody in the club? Hi, guys. I hope you are starting your week off strong. Are there going to be spoilers for the Jersey finale? Okay, well, obviously, Danielle, we're going to recap the Jersey finale today a little later. I want to get through some of the tea first, but we are going to recap the finale. Are there going to be spoilers? I mean, yeah, there are going to be spoilers in a recap. But like, I also am kind of like, well, but I don't know if there's much to really spoil. But just know at the end of this episode, we'll get into the Jersey recap. Yes, there will be spoilers. We'll talk about what happens in the episode and what the big bomb reveal is. So if you haven't watched it yet, then be sure to pause and then you can come back to the recap later. Okay, let's start with Dorinda Medley. Slorinda in the house. So Slorinda is living her best life. She is she's in early talks of getting her own spinoff. This news came, I think, on Friday. Early stages, has not been greenlit to series yet. So everyone's like, Dorinda's been taken off pause. Dorinda has a spinoff. Not exactly. It's in early stages of development. So I would imagine it's something that was pitched to the network, and the network was like, all right, put something together and we'll see. So I would imagine now they would have to put together some sort of pilot or some sort of presentation of what it would look like in order for the network to then greenlight it to a full series. Unclear if it'll be for Bravo or for Peacock, but as of right now, we got some Dorinda possibly returning to La Televisión. So the premise is not about her life. It's surrounding Bluestone Manor. So it's a little unclear of what that means. I'm thinking maybe it's going to be like a Vanderpump Rules style show or like a Girls Next Door style show where Dorinda kind of plays the role of Hugh Hefner, right? Where like it's the Playboy Mansion, right? Bluestone Manor, but the show centers around the people in the Playboy Mansion, in the Bluestone Manor, right? The butlers and, the staff at the manor is what I would assume it's going to be around, and Dorinda's kind of like the one at the head, running Bluestone Manor. I mean, or the other option, because we don't know what the premise is exactly, other than it's a show centered around Bluestone Manor. The other premise is maybe it's going to be like a bed and breakfast style show, right? Like Tori and Dean in love, and Dorinda's kind of Tori and Dean, and she's, because remember, she did also have the Airbnb deal where she had people come and stay at Bluestone Manor, and it was Airbnb style. So maybe she's gonna like rent the place out, kind of like Vanderpump Villa. I don't know. It's unclear what the show's gonna be about, but yeah. Tracy P says, "Oh my God, did I catch my first live? I need to go buy lottery tickets and a casino because obviously it's my lucky day. Love you, Zach. Oh, and I'm gonna be a grandma. Congrats, Tracy. Everyone, give Tracy some love for joining the live chat and for having a baby that's gonna have a baby." Okay. So we'll see. Russ says maybe they can just have all the ultimate girls trips at Bluestone Manor. Nobody seemed to enjoy that though. Like Dorinda didn't seem to enjoy hosting that many people. The ladies didn't enjoy staying at Dorinda's with all the rules. But I would imagine that maybe, that season 2 of Ex-Wives Club at Dorinda's house was possibly part of the inspiration behind it. Who knows? Maybe it's going to be like maybe it is going to be Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip at Bluestone Manor. That's a possibility too. TBD. But yeah. All right. Here we go. That's Dorinda. Let's see. What else? Monica. Yeah, let's get into the Monica stuff. We'll talk Monica, Brittany, and then we'll get into the Jersey recap. Monica Garcia. So she was at some sort of event. There's video clips going around. She was at an event that kind of looked like somebody's backyard, to be honest with you. But she was at an event. There was a DJ. She was at the DJ booth. She's talking into the mic, telling people two things. One, that producers were reaching out to her all season long to get her to return to Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, that they were even going to try to bring her in at the tail end of the season, which to me is a little worrisome if they're going to try to bring somebody in at the tail end, because usually when they do that, it's because the season isn't that great or there isn't as much content as one would expect. We know that they're trying to keep the details under wraps, but maybe part of the reason it's under wraps is because it's not that good. I don't know. TBD. But she says that they tried to bring her back. However, there were women on the cast that were threatening to quit. Then she references these investigations that happened after last season, or maybe it was during last season. I would assume it had to have been at the end of last season, with accusations that she claims were false accusations, and she had to have, investigations with like higher ups at NBC, and it was a whole thing. And I think she even said Warner Brothers she even had to answer to at one point. But she says that these investigations, I guess there were all these allegations that the cast members were making against her that she then had to answer for. But she did say that even though the cast collectively had filed this complaint, that there was two housewives, and she names Meredith Marks and Whitney Rose. She says that they withdrew their names from the complaint so that, because they couldn't support where the complaint was going or something like that. So it seems like Whitney and Meredith, although are not pleased with Monica, don't really care to keep it going, which only leaves Angie K, Lisa Barlow, and Heather Gay left on the cast that would be continuing to pursue anything against Monica. And then I think Lisa Barlow even tweeted something shady about like being so desperate that like you still keep these things alive. And part of me was kind of like, yeah, like she's really trying to hold on to her time on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. But not only that, but when you go and you're doing all these public appearances and you're doing all these podcast interviews, which she's been doing quite a few of them and doing quite a few appearances. And she even says when she's revealing these details, she's like, I hope you guys are recording this. I hope you post this. So it kind of feels like she likes the attention, but my thing is it's like, well, how long is that going to be sustainable? And if you're over here outing that the producers are trying to get you back, you're giving insider info, which is a bit of a, I don't know. I feel like it's not going to be all that beneficial to her in the long run because I don't know. I just feel like they don't like when you talk, like it's like when a new housewife is trying to be on the show and she's auditioning for the show or doing casting tapes for the show and then talks about, I'm in talks to return to be on the show. And then like, they just don't like that. They don't like when people are putting out info that they have no control over. So I don't know if it's going to help her in the end. If anything, it'll probably squash any chance of her getting to actually return, but we'll see. Jean says, I can't believe anything that comes out of Monica's mouth, just trying to keep her 15 minutes of fame going. She's completely butthurt that she's not on this season. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So it is what it is. Is Gypsy Rose going back to prison? Why would Gypsy Rose be going back to prison, Sarah? I don't think she's going back to prison. She's already served her time. Did she do something? Did she whack somebody else? What happened? What's going on? Okay, let's talk about Brittany Cartwright. Drop a comment below and let me know if you would like to see Monica Garcia return to Salt Lake City. At this point, I'm kind of like, she's coming off a little too thirsty and I'm kind of over it. Like, I'm annoyed that Lisa and Heather and Angie are possibly the ones that are preventing this from happening because I would love to have seen Monica come back at this point. I don't, only because she was good TV, but I understand why it wouldn't make sense for her to come back. unless they did find a way to bring her back that felt like it made sense and was organic. I don't know. Let's talk about Brittany Cartwright, because she's got a new man's. But before that, I wanted to remind everybody, only because I've been getting in so many Cameo requests lately, I wanted to remind everyone that I am on Cameo. So if you would like to get a personalized message from me I've been giving birthday shout outs to husbands and wives. I've been giving pep talks. I've been doing business shout outs. So, whatever you want from me, you want me to answer questions, some exclusive tea, something you want to ask me that you want me to reveal, I'm happy to mention it all. So be sure to book a Cameo. My handle on Cameo is just plain Zack, or you can just search Zack Peter on Cameo. There's a link in the description below. If you want to book a personalized message from me, you can do it now on Cameo. And then also I wanted to give a shout out to my favorite hangover-free wine. That's what I like to call it, my hangover-free wine, and that is Dry Farm Wines. I love me some Dry Farm Wines. It's low carb, it is lower cal, it is keto friendly, paleo friendly, vegan friendly. It's all the things. Third party lab tested for purity, and it's good, clean wine. It's wine that you can trust without all the junk additives, without all the junk dyes in them. It's good, clean, premium wine. They ship it straight to your door. You can give them a try at dryfarmwines.com/Zack. That's ZACK. Dryfarmwines.com/Zack. You can go give Dry Farm Wines a try. It's a curated box that's sent directly to your door. It's wine that you can trust. And even better, if this is your first time ordering, you get your first bottle for just a penny. First bottle, 1 penny. That's hell of a deal. So go check them out right now. Dryfarmwines.com/Zack. ZACK. Brittany Cartwright. Ooh. So it is rumored that Brittany Cartwright is dating a former Bachelorette alum, Tanner Cortad. I don't watch Bachelor or Bachelorette. I know nothing about Bachelor Nation, but he's a cutie. He's pretty cute. Like I'm not mad at her for this like newfound love connection, friend connection. They've been hanging out a lot. I guess there was a Bachelorette watch party at Jax's Studio City bar, and Jax, meanwhile, is seeking treatment for mental health, and Brittany is for vaginal health because she's getting that D. He's actually a cute guy. Let me see if I can pull up a photo. That way you guys can see him if you're watching the video on Spotify or on the Spotify. He's a cutie. I mean, I guess if you're on The Bachelor, if you're on The Bachelorette, like, they are cutie. He reminds me of Tyler Cameron. Is that Cameron Tyler? Who's the one? She's getting that sexual healing. That she is. Good for her. Get that D, girl. He's cute. He's wearing white pants and white sneakers, which already tells you what kind of a bro he is. But, yeah. She's living her best life. She can't really be bothered by Jax Taylor in treatment. She's, like, joining TikTok, and it's uncertain what the status of her and Tyler's relationship is, but he came to the Bachelorette watch party. On top of that, they've been spotted a couple of times. She's currently filming The Valley. According to reports from the Daily Mail, he's been around while she's filmed for The Valley. I don't think he'll be on the show, but he definitely is giving her a good smile. She looks happy. She looks refreshed. She's glowing. She's living her best life on season 2 of The Valley. So we'll have to see this all play out. We'll see if he's on the show. I don't think he will be on the show. And if he does appear on the show, then that's a red flag to me because that feels a little thirsty, you know? But good for Brittany. Living her best life. I'm living my best life. It's my birthday. At least that's what I'm dressed like. Skirt, skirt. Okay. Let's talk Jersey, because I've got a lot of thoughts, feelings, and vibes. Just going to warn people right now. I guess spoilers ahead, right? So, we got the big finale. Remember, they opened up the season, and they showed all this fighting, and they showed Dolores, and she's at the table, and there's all this glass everywhere, and all broken glass everywhere, and they ask her, Dolores, how do you think the final sit down went? And she's like, terrible. And so it made it look like there was some big brawl, right? Table flipping, glass throwing, hair pulling, like it looked like there was just going to be explosive fireworks in this finale. And they hyped it up. And even in the last 3-4 weeks, they've been saying these are the final 3 episodes before the big finale, the final sit down, dun, dun, dun. Stakes, right? Like just making it look like it's going to be super dramatic and there's a big reveal that's going to come, and they're just really getting us excited. So much so to like, I don't really watch Jersey live anymore unless I'm like, oh, well, I'm kind of, okay. If it's on, I'll watch it, whatever. But I was hyped for this. So much so that I was like, I don't want to go on social media. I don't want any spoilers. I don't want to look at it. I don't want anybody to spoil this finale for me. It's like, I want to watch it in real time and I want to enjoy it, right? We get to the finale and I would give it maybe a 2 out of 10 and maybe a 3. But I thought this finale was a total fucking flop. Okay. Those is just my thoughts. It was probably one of the worst Jersey finales that we've had. We've had some, well, because you have to think of it like this. On Real Housewives of Jersey, we lived through prostitution, whore, flip the table, cop without a badge revelation, right? We lived the posh fashion shows. Remember Kim D and Joe Gorga, the two of them slurring outside of the posh fashion show, fighting Melissa and the stripper, all of that stuff. Like, we lived through the glory days of Jersey. We lived through, remember when Joe and Joe were fighting and Melissa's like, stop hurting us. We lived through that. The Dr. V of it all. I mean, even the Jennifer Aiden and Danielle Cabral fight was better than what we got here. Joe says, would it be one of the worst finales across the Real Housewives franchise? Well, I haven't seen all of the Real Housewives finales, right? We have, 16 or 18 seasons of OC and 14 seasons of Beverly Hills. Like, we've had some bad finales. I don't know if I would say the worst ever because it did have its moments, right? What were its moments? I would say the Dolores versus Margaret, because after last week when Teresa sits everybody down, like, that was the thing, is we came off of a flop of an announcement last week and then we get into this week and it's like, what? So Teresa, had this big revelation that Margaret's talking to the ex. Wow, boom, bombshell, mind blown. Nobody was shocked, right? Nobody was shocked. She claims she has receipts and timelines and all that stuff. Regardless, if she has receipts and timelines, got it. Margaret was at some point in communication with the ex. I don't believe that the ex was using Margaret to get information out there. I believe that the ex was talking to the housewives, including Margaret, or trying to reach them, and was talking to bloggers. Look at how many of those low-budget bloggers, look at that, the Melissa's Old Nose, like, these people are just putting shit out there all the time, right? I'm not accusing Melissa's Old, I don't know anything about Melissa's Old Nose, to be honest with you. I'm not accusing Homegirl of anything specifically, but I'm just saying, look at how easy it is to give somebody information and then it ends up on Reddit and it ends up on Twitter and it ends up all over the internet, and it's this big thing, right? When somebody wants to leak a story, they can leak a story. And oftentimes it doesn't always have to be a housewife. So if Louis' ex was contacting the housewives and some of them were talking to her, then I would imagine she's leaking it to bloggers and leaking it to podcasters and all these other things, right? And leaking it to probably Kim D, whatever. I don't know. So pretty sure it got out there, and it wasn't through Margaret. Like, Margaret Josephs is not going to be the type of person that's going to take information from Louis' ex and then go send it to, like, chick is thirsty, right? She's been trying to expose Louis forever, and the video's getting out. You really think Margaret Josephs is the one behind sending the videos out to everybody? Come on. This chick has access to all of our DMs. She can send it to anybody. I personally don't pay attention to the low-budget shit, but whatever. Wasn't there supposed to be a scene where the bloggers were present? Did they cut that out? I didn't hear about a scene with bloggers being present, no. But anyway, so that was Teresa's big reveal. Not that juicy, right? Not that salacious, not surprised. Even Melissa in this finale says Louis' ex, not just Louis' exes, not just the one, but there were multiple exes, but not just them. She's like, multiple people, everyone from Louis' past has been coming out and reaching out to us and trying to get dirt out about Louis. Melissa said that there was one time where she was down the shore and one of Louis' nieces from one of his ex-wives came up to her and is like, stay away from Louis. He's very dangerous. So everybody was talking shit about Louis. Here's the thing. When there's shit to talk, people are going to talk. And once one person comes out and another person comes out, it just snowballs. So the fact that Margaret happened to have talked to this woman at some point, whatever, not that salacious, okay? Then we keep it moving. Because Dolores, or I guess Margaret and Jen Fessler are chilling at Margaret's house while Teresa's doing her thing, and they're kind of debriefing. And then Dolores comes over right after meeting with Teresa, and she's like, I'm tired, I'm annoyed, whatever. And then her and Margaret start talking, and then her and Margaret get into it because Margaret goes off to say that, or Dolores says, you had, the same way Teresa had her meeting, you had your meeting before last year's reunion, and I wasn't even invited to that. And then that's when Margaret is like, that's not true. I invited you to that. And then Dolores loses her shit, right? And she calls Margaret to see you next Tuesday. She calls her a liar. She's like, you never invited me to that. You never invited me to that. How dare you? You're lying. And she gets up and she's going to leave. And Margaret's like, what? Yes, I did. And Margaret, even in her confessional, she's like, listen, Dolores and I may remember this differently. However, I did mention it to her. It was mentioned in passing. And I think they're both right. I think Margaret very passively mentioned it to Dolores, probably so that she can say, I mentioned it to Dolores, knowing that Dolores probably wasn't going to show up anyway. But I think she very passively just kind of happened to mention it to Dolores. And Dolores was probably in between things. I think she even said she was coming or going to a lunch with Teresa. So much so that I think it didn't even register for Dolores and she doesn't really remember them having that conversation because probably Margaret wasn't clear about the details, right? Whereas Dolores understood the meeting to be one thing. Russ says, Frank even said that they were invited but didn't want to go. Yeah, so if Frank was invited and didn't want to go, I'm pretty sure it was mentioned to Dolores. But Dolores totally flipped her lid, and then her and Margaret end up Margaret's like, you're not leaving. We're friends. We're settling this. Let's finish this conversation and hash this out. So they finish the conversation. They hash it out. They're okay. They just remember it differently. It's kind of the conclusion that they come to. Dolores doesn't believe that she was ever told. Margaret's like, no, I remember telling you, but it was a very passive way. Dolores, if there was a group chat or anything, Dolores wasn't on that, right? It was mentioned to Dolores, and I think, again, Margaret mentioned it in passing so that she could be like, well, I invited her. She didn't come. And I don't think she expected Dolores to come. I don't even think she wanted Dolores to come, to be honest with you. So we get that. Then we're building up, and there's this weird scene with Louis and Teresa. And I feel like this was the episode where Louis really showed us his true colors, and he really showed us who he is here. Because he's going into this stupid meeting, and why is Teresa going to this, and they don't deserve her time, and nobody needs to deserve her time, yada, yada, yada. And then he says that he wishes the absolute worst on Margaret, and he wishes the absolute worst on her son. What happened to kids and husbands being off limits, right? Whether they're adults or whether they're kids or whether whatever. Remember, everyone's like, the kids are off limits, kids are off limits. And yet here we have Louis going into this, not a death wish, but he's leaning very hard into wanting the worst to happen to Margaret and her son, which is very dark and very unsettling. Do you blame him? Yes, I do blame him, because him and Teresa are so much you never talk about families, you never talk about this, you never talk about that. I understand Margaret being upset with Louis. He had Bo Dietl dig up dirt on them. Whether you want to, again, semantics, whether you want to say it was an official investigation or he was hired to, whatever. Bo Dietl was at one point contracted and paid and somehow got information about the other cast members. However you want to spin that, however you want to lay it, that's what it was, right? So I don't think you should ever wish the absolute worst on anyone, especially Louis being Mr. Namaste. We just saw him, last week or the week before when he was doing that weird, all the husbands, and we're going to send sweet messages to our wives because we're Namaste and we're going to activate our third eye and blah, 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 blah. And we're not going to jerk off. That way we can save all of our manly energy so that when we have our woman, remember the weird video? And he tries to play it off as he's so zen. So yeah, I think this shows who Louis really is and shows that the act of him trying to be a good guy is all a performance. And all these things that Louis has been, or that people have been saying about Louis for the past, 2-3 years are now probably true. You know, if they're saying all of these horrible things about him, and he's being dragged left and right, and not even on the show, but like with the people that have been in his life prior. Everybody wants to be like, well, Margaret's been saying stuff, and well, Melissa and Jen, or not Jen, Fuda has been saying stuff. Like, all these people are saying these bad things about Louis. First of all, they're not accusing Louis of anything other than repeating the accusations that multiple people have made against Louis. That's the part that's wild. So to me, that's weird, you know? It's just weird. Danny Gossip Gal says, it was so hard to stomach. So stomach turning to hear Louis' comments. Yeah, Louis really is. Yeah, like even if Margaret was a terrible person, what Louis has projected to us or given to us as part of his performance was that he's a good guy and he means well and blah, 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 and all the things, right? Remember I told you he even DM'd me at one point, and seems like a nice guy, right? That's what he's trying to put out there. So for somebody who tries to be such a good person to then say that they wish the worst on somebody's child, let's say you don't like Margaret, right? Wish the worst on Margaret. I still think it's gross, but wish the worst on Margaret. But when you wish the worst on her child, how is that okay? Like I want the tree stumps to really rack their tree stump brains that's really all wood. Like, please explain that to me. This is literally like if Margaret had said, I wish the absolute worst on Gia. Oh my God, the tree stumps' heads would explode, right? The roots would be ripped out of the turf, the astroturf that they're buried in. So, yeah. Storm says, I want them to reboot and move the show to Livingston, New Jersey. Interesting. Endeb says, repeating it for a purpose, that's what makes me laugh when they say I didn't start it. Yeah, I mean, listen, they're all guilty of this shit, you know? Like, when people take teams and sides, like, I think they're all guilty. I think they've all contributed to this type of behavior. Louis, I think, is a different category, though. And I don't think there's anybody that likes Louis. Like, anybody that likes Louis. I mean, unless if anybody likes Louis, you can chime in now and we'll laugh at you. Okay, so we had Dolores versus Marge. We had this weird scene with Louis and Teresa. We have a weird scene or not a weird scene, but kind of a lackluster scene between Melissa and Joe, where Melissa's like, I'm going into this. Do you want me to approach it any type of way? And Joe's like, no, I'm done with Teresa. I don't want you to approach it a different type of way. So, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of meat there, because Melissa basically says, I'm going to go into this finale and I'm not going to really participate, which, again, flop, right? Heather McDonald likes Louis? Really? I'm sure has she met him? I don't know. Listen, I'm sure when you meet the dude, he's lovely. Like I said, when he DM'd me, he was very lovely and very nice. But I got the impression that he was trying to, because he was just like talking about his son and how his son has special needs. And like, I just felt like he was trying to hook the sentiment by leaning into that, which to me was a little off. Because at first I thought he was reaching out to me to tell me these things because my brother has autism. And I thought that was like a point of relation that Louis and I could have. However, I don't think he was even familiar with that. He was just trying to sell me what a great dad he was. And I'm like, why are you going out of your way to DM me, to reach out to me, to tell me what a great guy you are and what a great father you are if you're not trying to plant the seeds? And how is that different from people wanting to be like, well, Margaret Josephs is talking to bloggers. Like, Louis literally fucking DM'd me. I'll show you the DMs. Louis and Teresa do the same fucking shit. Like, it's all crazy. It's all fucking crazy. Yeah. Oh, Heather McDonald's hung out with Louis and Teresa. Yeah, listen, I'm sure when you hang out with them, they're lovely in person, right? But I think it's the environment that you're in too. When you're in the show environment, like it brings out the worst in you. So yeah. Okay. So then now let's get to the final dinner, because we get there and it's hosted by Jen Fessler and Dolores, even though it doesn't look like Jen Fessler has any part of this at all, right? very unclear how Jen Fessler is a co-host of this when Dolores is literally the one that's setting everything up, and she has all the flowers for everybody, and she's putting the arrangements of where everybody's going to be seated. Okay, got it. And then they start getting into it, and we start with Danielle and Jennifer Aiden, and Danielle and Jen going back and forth, yapping at each other, taking jabs at each other. Jen Aiden says that Danielle made a comment about Bill, and they cut that. And then Jen Aiden responded talking about how Danielle's husband, Nate, has man boobs. And I was like, listen, even if he does have man boobs, he looks great. I would motorboat him all day. Nate is at the top of the list on the hottest Jersey house husbands, right? I ain't gonna motorboat Louis, not gonna happen. But, Nate, hell yeah. I'd rather bang Nate than I would bang Bill Aiden. But, Anyway, I get Danielle making the point, and she likes to do this where she leans into like, well, they said this about me, or they talked about my husband. And then you do kind of hear Danielle say, oh, well, you go home and you cry yourself to sleep at night, like you're alone. Like she basically insinuated that Jennifer Aiden is in a loveless marriage, is kind of the line that she was dancing on, which wasn't a direct jab at Bill, but it, I think, struck a nerve the same way when Margaret, talked about Bill Aiden sleeping in the pool house and, bringing his girlfriend to the pool house and whatever. And Jen Aiden kind of flipped about that. I do think that there is an internal, deeply embedded subconscious insecurity about Bill fooling around, right? And we know that he's fooled around in the past. So I think that's always going to be underneath Jen, and I think Jen tries to make it seem like she and Bill are so happy. But we even saw them in therapy last season. Like, he didn't want to be there. He can't be bothered by any of this shit. Like, Bill is just not... Listen, but Jen's comfortable. He has money. He buys her Chanel. She gets to count all her Ferraris. She's good with that life, right? A lot of women in her position are cool with that life. A lot of guys, you see the sugar daddy situation with a lot of younger gay guys. They're happy with that situation too. It works for them, So, yeah. So we see them get into it. Then there's the comment about Nate's boobs. And then we hear some sort of commotion. We kind of see the start of commotion, but we don't really see what happens, right? And they completely cut out when Danielle Cabral allegedly gets the pitcher and throws it at Jen. And so the original story was that Danielle threw a glass pitcher at Jen's head. You can now see that there was never a pitcher, a glass of water, anything that hit Jennifer Aiden's head, because makeup, hair, glam, all still fully intact. Nothing ever touched Jen Aiden. Maybe she got some splashes of water on her. Who knows? But whatever it was, nothing hit her enough to cause injury. And from what I've heard, it was a plastic pitcher. It slipped out of Danielle's hands. She tried to throw it at her, wasn't able to. Okay. Then they remove Danielle from the situation. They take her into the bathroom. Dolores is trying to calm her down. Teresa's like, oh my God, you guys, stop. Don't do this. Like, knock it off. And then Melissa's like, knock it off. You're the queen of this shit. You're the one that flipped a table in season 1. You're the one that threw all the dishes at Margaret. And Teresa even walked into that dinner saying, I don't want to sit across from Margaret. Otherwise, this whole table may be thrown on her. So it's like she already came in with that sort of energy, and then she's going to get mad that Danielle threw something at Jen. I think that was Teresa's way of trying to defend Jen without really defending Jen, but trying to make it seem like, look, I was trying to tell her not to behave like that because blah, 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 and I was defending you. So, yeah. I mean, why they cut it, I don't know. I thought that was dumb of them to cut it out, especially if nothing actually happened and nobody was actually injured. We don't get context of what actually happened. And not only that, but all of the promos leading up to this episode showed us all the broken glass on the floor. So it's like, how are you going to tease and hype up that there's clearly some physical altercation where there's glass broken on the floor, yet you're not going to show, you're going to cut out that actual moment. Like, it was just weird. But so, Jennifer's like, I'm fine with her coming back, but like, she's so violent and blah, blah, and we have to seat them apart and whatever. They bring back Danielle. That whole moment, total flop, right? It was exciting, but they cut the meat. I don't want to be left with just the fat slivers on the end of the steak. Like, I want the meat. Where's the meat? Show me the beef. So no beef, no meat, um, except in Nate's titties. But listen, I'll suck on those titties. He's a cutie. But yeah, it's just blah. Not that exciting. Completely glossed over. Don't get into it too deeply. Then we move on over and then we have that moment where Melissa calls out Teresa and she's like, "You're the queen of this shit." And then Teresa's like, "You're a whore. You're a whore." And then Melissa's like, "Oh, really? I'm a whore? I'm going to tell Antonia that you think her mom is a whore." And Teresa's like, "My brother married a whore." And they're going back and forth. And then Fuda's like, "Stop. Like, why are you guys behaving like this? This is crazy." And again, that gets so glossed over. It's seconds long. And then we move on, right? And I was like, okay, nothing again. Like, we touch the surface of the Melissa and Teresa, and then it's no longer further engaged because they have like this pose off, whatever. And we kind of knew we weren't going to get much from Melissa because Melissa already had the conversation with Joe Gorga that she wasn't going to engage very much and that she wasn't going to work on trying to make any sort of repairs to her relationship with Teresa. And Joe was cool with that. Then we get into the Margaret versus Teresa of it all. And Teresa's like, "I know that you were talking to the ex." And Margaret's like, I've DM'd the ex," which she reveals in her conversation with Dolores that she has DM'd the ex. She's never formally met her. She's seen her out at events, which people are like, how do you see somebody out at an event, but you don't actually talk to them? You can go, I've been to plenty of events. You go to social events and you see a bunch of people there, right? I can see someone from across the room, know who that person is, but not have an opportunity to speak to them. Happens all the time. You can be out at a restaurant, see people out at another table and not speak to them. Like, you can see people out socially without having to have any sort of, interaction with them, right? I do believe that Margaret was DMing her, and I do think that Margaret reaching out to her when Teresa was going to have this sit down, I thought that was, listen, if somebody's going to try to subpoena you in court and get information, and so she tells Teresa, she's like, Teresa's like, "You never showed up in court." And she's like, "No, I had no reason to show up in court." And she's like, "Well, if you were innocent, then why didn't you just show up in court and say that you're innocent?" She's like, "Innocent of what?" She's like, you think that so, like, you've cracked the code, right?" And then she's like, "You subpoenaed the wrong bitch. Why?" Here's the big bombshell. She's like, "Because Jackie's the one that actually had the ex over at her house." She's like, "This whole time, you thought I've been the one that was in collusion against you. Meanwhile, Jackie actually had the ex back in 2021. Before Margaret talked to the ex in 2022, Jackie had the ex over to her house." And then Jackie immediately says, "No, no, no. Not true. I never did that. You're a liar. I never had I never had the ex over. I never talked to the ex. That's not true." And Jackie denies it like 3 different times. And then Melissa's like, Margaret, how do you know this information?" And Margaret's like, "Well, because I reached back out to the ex and I DM'd her and I asked her to give me all the information. I wanted to know what information could possibly come up at this lunch that Teresa was, or there wasn't even really food there, so it wasn't really a lunch." She's like, "I reached out to her." And then from there, Margaret says, "Here's the date. Here's when it happened. The ex thought it was strange that Jackie was at this meeting with you because Jackie invited her over to dig up dirt on Teresa." So Jackie's had dirt on Teresa. Jackie made a conscious effort to invite the ex over to her house. And Margaret reveals this big bombshell with the exact date. And she says that she has the screenshots to prove it. And then Jackie deny, and then finally says, "I met with her. I did meet with her, Teresa. I did. And then Teresa just kind of looks at her, and Teresa gives her this look. Like, you see the look in Teresa's face, and then you see Teresa, like, in her head say, "Pull it together. Don't give Margaret the satisfaction." And Teresa, like, doesn't have a reaction to it. And it was just strange. And Dolores and Jennifer, even Jennifer Aiden, knew that was strange. She's like, "Wait, what? Jackie met with this woman?" And she's like, "Teresa, you're not having a reaction to, like, how are you not reacting to this?" Like, and Teresa kind of was shut down in that moment. Like, there was nothing that was really revealed that gave Teresa the upper hand. If anything, Jackie made Teresa look like an idiot, because meanwhile, Teresa's over here buddy-budding with Jackie and promoting Jackie's book. That's when you know that somebody's a real snake. When they met to dig up dirt on the X. And meanwhile, you're getting so fired up about Margaret being in communication with the X when prior to that, Jackie had a full sit down with this person to dig up information. Now, do I think Jackie was leaking things to the bloggers? No. Do I think Margaret was leaking things to the bloggers? No. I don't think either of them were leaking anything to the bloggers. I think they were digging up their own dirt to get their own arsenal to hear this chick out and see, are these things about Louis true? Because these things were going around on the internet, right? And like I said, if the ex was talking to the wives and they all want to get the information out through the wives, they're going to talk to the bloggers and they're going to get the information out there regardless. So if all these rumors are happening, then why not go straight to the horse and say, let me hear it from the horse's mouth. What is it that you have to say? And then Jack even says, oh, I'm glad that this came out because I wanted to tell you. I knew that you were going to find out at some point and I just wanted to tell you. And Jennifer Aiden, who's the one who put on her thinking cap and used her brain this episode, even said, she's like, the reason I think Teresa didn't have a reaction is because she didn't want to give Margaret the satisfaction of having this gotcha moment on her. She was going to allow Margaret to deflect off of herself. When it's like, Margaret's not denying, she's at the table to Teresa's face and not denying that she's spoken to the ex, but also being like, but yeah, you and I are not friends, right? Teresa and Margaret, not friends. We don't like each other, right? I don't like your husband doesn't like me. He just wished me, the worst thing to ever happen to me, wish the worst things to ever happen to my child, because everyone's so big about the children and the child. And Teresa's like over there bad-mouthing Margaret's husband, who's a plumber, and Margaret's like, I'll bang the plumber all day long. I'm good with that. I'm fine. I'm happy. I'm content. So, no reaction from Teresa. Episode kind of dies down there. Jackie, Dolores, like, Jackie's shaking in her boots. Jackie's about to go pee her pants in the car, which I believe is true. I think Jackie was pissed and shocked and whatever. So, yeah. That was that. And my thing is, it's like that also killed the reunion. The fact that Teresa didn't have everybody else at the table, jaw dropped. Everyone was like shocked, waiting for Teresa to have a reaction. But Teresa wanted to protect her ego so badly and still be in the right that Margaret's the bad guy that she didn't want to give any reaction to it. But you know why I think Teresa didn't give much of a reaction? Because Teresa's friendship with Jackie doesn't really mean that much. I think it's a leveraged friendship that we'll see die, that won't last. And I know that they were posting pictures this week together to be like, look, we're fine, we're good. Again, it's all still performative to show that Margaret didn't affect her. When it's like, what do you mean Margaret didn't affect you? Who gives a fuck if Margaret affected you or not? This bitch has been pretending to be your friend this entire time. Meanwhile, she's keeping this big secret from you. That's lying by omission. Having you sell her book, meanwhile, she was digging up dirt on your husband, that's crazy. That's cuckoo crazy town. But I think Teresa's lack of a reaction also. So they cut the Jennifer versus Danielle altercation, and then Teresa didn't give us anything in that bombshell revelation, which made the bomb, it was still a big bomb, and it made Jackie look so stupid, but it could have been a much bigger moment had Teresa really been in touch with letting her ego go and let her emotions kind of get out. And Deb says, Teresa knew already. She's just proving a point that they all have been lurking in the shadows. Then if they've all been lurking in the shadows, then why are you being so upset at Margaret, who's literally telling you to her face, yeah, I've done this? And if Teresa's known this all along, then why has Teresa never confronted Jackie about it? Why give Jackie the pass knowing this information and knowing that Jackie's buddying up to you, again, so that you can tweet out her book? If Teresa knew this information, Teresa obviously was using Jackie to get back at Margaret, but that completely flopped and turned around on Jackie, and Jackie looked like a total fucking fool. Oh, and then we have the sprinkle cookies. That's actually a good point, because some people were saying, oh, Melissa brought up the sprinkle cookies, and that was her moment of trying to be relevant, blah, 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 blah. But no, I actually saw Melissa's point in that. She's like, how is it that you were so angry and made a big fuss about fucking sprinkle cookies, and yet you have this bitch that's sitting right next to you that has been lying to your face and getting you to promote her book and pretending to be your friend while leaving this big piece of information that she's never said to you? I was like, I agree with Melissa in this moment. How it, like, not just the sprinkle cookies though, right? But like there are so many moments where we've had Teresa have big reactions. Cop without a badge when she flipped the table on Danielle. She's like, it doesn't make sense to me. Make it make sense. You prostitution whore. You were engaged 19 times. There has to be something more than that. Table flip, right? There are so many times where Teresa's had big moments. I mean, when Teresa was exposed, when Danielle outed her as for being the one to encourage her to pull Margaret's ponytail, and Teresa got mad and flipped off the cameras and threw her cup and stormed out and was hiding in the bathroom. Like, Teresa has these moments, right? So, you know, watch season 3 and you will know why Teresa doesn't forgive Melissa. It wasn't about the cookies. I've watched all of the seasons. I know exactly why she doesn't forgive Melissa. But my point is, Teresa made a big deal over sprinkle cookies, and yet she's completely giving Jackie this get out of jail free card that, again, made sense to nobody. And I know that the tree stubs, you know, knock on wood, knock on their heads, want to like try to twist themselves into pretzels to try and defend it. But hello, even Jennifer Aydin was like, this is fucking weird. Like, this makes no sense. This is not in character for Teresa. Even Jen Aydin is like, hold on, wait a minute. Even Dolores, if Dolores and Jen Aydin, who are friends with Teresa, know that this moment is fucking weird, then all the pretzels on Twitter needed to untwist themselves and actually, you know, use their noggins. I know it's a little hollow, but everyone wants Teresa to react. That's the point. Yes, because it's a housewives show. That's what we watch. We don't watch them to not have reactions. We watch them to see Lisa Rinna cry when Kim Richards brings out the bunny. Otherwise, why do I want to watch some broads just sit there at a table and stare at each other? Like, hello? Have I gone crazy? What, did I just fall out of a coconut tree? What is going on? People don't want to see drama on Housewives anymore? If you want more finales like that, that was the stupidest fucking finale ever. That was a terrible finale. And not only that, but then on top of it, we have all of these forced flashbacks, which I just, you know, flex on my name. I predicted this weeks ago, right? Where I said this finale was going to be where they try to wrap it all up, and they're going to try to give us a Vanderpump Rules moment. Remember the Vanderpump Rules finale where they have the flashbacks and you see them in their younger confessionals, and, you know, they have the music playing and Ariana's walking out and Lala's having her moment and blah, 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 blah. So that's, I feel like what they were trying to do with this Jersey finale is to make it feel final, but it was just so forced. The flashback scenes, there were so many flashback scenes, and they were kind of out of place. I feel like they were trying to make us feel something emotionally, but I don't think we were going into this final episode looking to have, like, you know, an emotional, nostalgic moment. I think we were going in looking for the drama. And this is where I think, you know, producers did the best that they could. And the editors, I think, did the best that they could and actually were successful because they got us all hyped and wanting to tune into this because the teasers and the trailer, like, it hyped up that there was going to be this big explosive finale, right? Really hyped it up. And you have to give it to the editors for trying, you know? But they sold us one thing and delivered something completely lackluster that was the opposite of what they sold us. They sold us fireworks, and we didn't get a fireworks show. We didn't even get a drone show. What we got was, you know, a violin going on a canoe. It was just slow and it was pacing. We're like, what the fuck is this? So the flashback scenes didn't land for me because it felt like they were forcing it too hard to have to be the thing with Vanderpump Rules, and why I think Vanderpump Rules' finale was successful, is because we had the stakes, right? It was building. The tension was building. Tom and Ariana. And we're getting to this moment where we see Lala have the explosive reaction. And it says, you know, when did she suddenly become God? And you see Lala have this big climax moment. Right? You need that. You need the rising action and you need the climax in order for there to then be the falling action in the end, right? To have the resolution. And not that we got a resolution, but it reached a peak where there was the climax, and then you see the flashbacks and you're like, oh, now this really does feel like an ending. Like, we felt the emotion. And not only that, but both Ariana and Lala did a great job in their confessionals of storytelling. The pacing, the cadence, the way that they were delivering their interviews, Ariana and Lala, and that's why in the end you see them as the two that are kind of telling the story. That to me was where you had that emotion, right? Because the way Lala's describing it, this is what we do. We live our lives, and Lala was a great storyteller in that way. And then the way Ariana kind of counters that and talks about how, like, Tom Sandoval doesn't get to have access to me in the end. He's only doing this because he's being performative, and you don't get to have access to me when I've cut you out of my life after what you've done. You're just trying to do this to prove to other people that you're not a bad guy. And I think the way you can just see they were very vulnerable in those interviews, and that's what worked, is it was real emotion. And I feel like we didn't get any real emotion from Teresa, because Teresa defended why she didn't have a reaction to Jackie. The rest of them, I think the only two that maybe tried were Dolores and Melissa, because Melissa talks about there being finality and there being like, you can cut somebody out of your life and be done with it. But it just didn't land, right? I feel like it was a nice effort from the producers and the editors to take those sound bites from Melissa's interviews and try to like put a pin in it, but it didn't, because there was no effort, there was no climax, there was no anything. Like it just fell flat. So the flashback clips just didn't land. You could tell that they were trying to work with the footage that they had to put in these moments that were supposed to give some conclusion, but there was no conclusion. It was just a balloon that ran out of air and fell flat at the end. End up said it was redundant since season 5 it tipped to this trend starting in season 3. The producers could have curbed it better, but they didn't. Yeah, I agree. We already saw that. Did Bravo show the fight? I only watched on Peacock. Bravo did not show the fight, no. Dolores boasted about the finale since the trailer of season 14 false advertising. Well, yeah, because they show like Dolores like, this is terrible. It ended so terribly, and then again they show all the broken glass, and it was just like, it was none of that. It was literally none of that, none at all, which was just so crazy to me. It was just a terrible finale, and if that's how Jersey goes out, oof. But again, it's just because Jersey has delivered so many good, strong moments and so many good, strong finales that for them to really pump it up this hard was just not it. It was all, I didn't think it was worth all the hype. It wasn't. Sarah says, I kind of want Lala and Sheena to be housewives. They know the game, plus younger too. No. I think Lala could be a housewife. I've always said the only two that I thought have housewives potential would be Lala and Stassi. And I stand by that. I think they are the only two that have housewives potential. That's why Mob Wives didn't have China when they did sit downs. No, the Mob Wives finale, those were good, right? They just sat down, but they didn't even need to break China. They were trying to break each other's faces. Remember? Get up, Karen. Like that was, whew. Chrissy Fitch says, I want to know how or why Dolores thinks Margaret lied about talking to the ex. She said specifically when she spoke to her. Yeah, that's why when she was like, Margaret's lying about talking to the ex, I was like, no, well, then it makes you think, well, how good was Dolores' memory when Margaret claims that she invited her to this final, the meeting at her house before the reunion last year? Because you can clearly see in the footage, Margaret says, I didn't talk to her in 2021 when all the rumors were first coming out. I didn't start talking to her until 2022. Once I found out about Bo Dietl, once I found out that they were digging up information on us, yeah, then I wanted to go and get information on them as well. I wanted to know what to be prepared for. Real Housewives of New Jersey jumped the shark long ago. I think there was still potential though, right? I think that it wasn't what it was, but I felt like these last 2 seasons were rough. That first season with Louis was pretty good, right? Where you have the Nashville and Teresa does Table Flip 2.0 and Margaret calls her a felon. That was a good season. I feel like after that is when it really struggled to find its footing moving forward. Well, that's all I got for you. Take it or leave it. But Jersey has officially come to the end. Melissa had to insert herself for no reason. Well, not for no reason. She's on the cast. This is where the treat stumps really like stump me because they're like, oh, Melissa has no story. Oh, Melissa trying to insert herself. Like, I get it, you don't like her, but it's like you have to pick a lane. She either, like, I don't know. It's silly. Y'all drive me crazy sometimes. My head spin. All right. Thank you guys. I love you. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful rest of your Monday. I'll be back on Tuesday for another live stream. New episode, our final episode of season 2 of Disaster Daters drops this week on Tuesday. We also have 2 new episodes of the Pop Report that are dropping this week as well, Wednesday and Friday. So be sure to subscribe, listen, tune in. Go subscribe to the Pop Report on YouTube. We are so close to hitting that 1,000 mark. We're like right at the tail end, guys. So if you have not done so yet, go and subscribe to the Pop Report on YouTube. You can watch full episodes of the Pop Report on YouTube as well. Stay tuned. Lots of good tea to be spilled this week, so get ready for it. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Kat says, love Disaster Daters. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love it too. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Ciao for now. Give me a follow at Just Plain Zack all over the internet. Book your cameos. Get your dry farm wines. And I'll talk to you later. Ciao for now. Bye, guys.